Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr,
And I'm Cindy Baldwin.
and you're listening to Fiber Talk, the twice weekly podcast for the needlework artist. Our artist this week from Needle Delights, Kathy Rees. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thanks for doing this. We gushed about you in our Wednesday show, and you brought back all kinds of memories of all kinds of designs. And Cindy and I got way off the script and had a blast. So um, it's really great that we can follow up a few days later with a conversation with you. But we got a little carried away. But so what? We had fun. Who cares? Yep. What was it? It was the color waves that got us on the train, and we didn't
Right.
stop. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
If I hadn't had to go, oh, we had dinner guests coming. If I hadn't had that, we'd have probably gone on another half hour. So yeah. So thanks for doing that. I was wondering, just doing in the research, what you went to school, business,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. What you worked in the corporate world, and then you worked for your parents who had a shop. And
Yes.
what was that like? Did uh, did they? Was it Kathy, come work for us, or I can help you, or what was that like?
It was actually, no, I was tired of the job that I had, and I was looking around for another job. I lived in California, in Southern California. It's where I went to college. I grew up in a Navy family. We moved all the time. My parents, I graduated from high school in South Florida and went back to California. My mom and brother and I had lived there while my dad was overseas for a year and a half when I was in high school, and my grandfather lived in San Diego. And so I really wanted to go to college there, and so I went. And then a year later, my parents moved to Hawaii. My dad got transferred, and I
Mm.
actually went with him. I went with the family, back with the family for a year, and I loved being in Hawaii, but I didn't like going to school there. I got really sick. I had my tonsils out when I was 17,
Oh,
and I
jeez.
said,
Oh,
I want to go back to California. So I went back to California, and long story short, my parents moved a few more times, um, but ended up in Pensacola, retired from the military, and I have a brother who was just a couple of hours from here, and he had a 3-year old. And I really thought maybe I'll never get married and have children. And I missed my family. And
Yeah.
so
mhm.
we have a really small little family. And I said, I'm going to move. I'm going to move somewhere closer to my family. And so I started looking for jobs and was walking my dog one day, and I heard a voice who I have no idea who it was, but said, you should move and work with your parents. And, I had been here right after they opened the store, and I don't know what it was. I just, like, every chance I had, I wanted to go be in that store and
Oh.
look at things. And, I knew how to cross stitch. I had learned a long time ago, and my mom gave me some stuff that I could do for her, shop models. And I kind of was like, well, I, I have a real job. I can't just go work in a needlepoint store. But I prayed about it a lot, and then I called my parents and I said, "What do you think?" And they said, "Oh, that would be great." And so I moved. My dog and I moved across the country and lived in the same town as my parents for the first time since I was, 16,
Huh.
and went to
Wow.
college. And so, I worked with them. We had a mom and pop. They envisioned having a mom and pop shop. There was another cross stitch store that was in town, in the same kind of across the 3 Mile Bridge, and they just happened to have that shop go out of business right after they opened. And so all of those people just
Oh,
came to them,
Oh.
and we were also like right on the road to Pensacola Beach. So they were busier than they ever thought they would be, and they were happy to have me because they needed some help. So that's how I kind of
mhm.
ended up there, and
And it was a
I
needlepoint
loved it.
store.
It was a needlework store. We carried primarily cross stitch, but we had a section of painted canvas, mostly for tourists, and we had lots of threads, lots of fibers. Um, this was the early 90s, so there was no internet yet. We told the customers what was new when it was, we decided when things were new that we bought at market,
Right.
and hosted lots of events and taught classes. We went to market and took classes ourselves to learn as much as we could about things that we didn't know. And it was a great time. We had a few guilds, Embroiderers Guild, an hour away in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
We had a local stitchery guild that was unaffiliated, and we let them meet in our store, in our big classroom.
Right.
And it was just a great community, and um, it was a good time.
Yeah. Did you with your degree, did you do the books, or did you work on
I
the
did.
and
I
you worked
did.
and you worked in the shop too then?
Yeah, I basically I managed the store. It allowed my mom. My mom did finishing. My dad did custom framing,
Oh
and
boy.
I managed the store. And we had a couple of part-time employees. And so
Oh, you were a
the
godsend if they were focusing on finishing and framing, you were a godsend.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
yeah, yeah, like I
Wow.
took over, the accounting from my dad, which to me was nothing. I worked
Yeah.
as a controller for a store, a
Oh,
retailer
yeah.
that had 7 stores. And so he's like, "Are you sure you can do our payroll taxes?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm really sure I can, Dad." So
With my eyes
he did
closed.
not he did not really want to let go of that checking account, but he did. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I get this right after dinner. I'll handle it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So is that when you needlepoint came into your head?
So when I worked in the store, we had cross stitch and needlepoint. We were always having to show people how to do stuff. We had one of our employees who did a lot of needlepoint, and she taught me to do basket weave so that I could teach customers how to do it.
Oh,
And that's kind of what started my needlepoint. So I didn't really do that much needlepoint until, I don't know, somebody brought in a piece of counted something, and I was like, I want to do that. And so I did Nova. That was my first counted
oh
charted
man,
needlepoint. It was
deep
my
end,
Wow.
first. Like,
deep
yeah,
end.
like, and it was like I couldn't get enough. I did it, and I taught a class in it. We were always doing things like that. And then our guilds like to change colors around quite a bit. We did that even in cross stitch for customers. And so that's really kind of what I did um, a lot of the time. And so there we would create, 2 or 3 or 4 colorways for them, show them the threads, and the guilds ordered a lot of their supplies from us.
Hmm.
So, and I taught classes in cross stitch. I taught people, I love to teach beginners because I love to see the light go on in their eyes.
Right,
And
right.
I feel like I'm really
Mhm.
teaching them something that they may enjoy for the rest of their life.
Yeah,
And
Yes.
that, that is the true heart of my teaching, is when I can show somebody something or teach them something that they
Hmm.
didn't know how to do before.
yeah. Well, that's the drug of
Yeah.
teaching is when the light goes on
Mhm.
for a student. I don't care what age they
Right.
are. That's the
Yeah.
drug. Once that happens once, it's hard to give up. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Man, that's cool. So that so then all right. So basket weave and Nova. I can't. You did Nova. That was your first one, man. That's monumental.
But I also had, like, I was really curious and I wanted to learn, and so we used to always sell Joe Christensen's The Needlepoint book. We called it the Needlepoint Bible. This is like everything you need to know about needlepoint. Got all these
Yes.
little
Yep.
diagrams in the back, and I read all the stuff in the front. I read all the chapters with the words that told you why you did stuff the way you did
Hmm.
it, and
Hmm.
Yeah.
what size needle is best with this, and all the stuff that you need to know, especially
Yeah.
if you're a teacher. There's like
Right.
nothing worse than taking classes from somebody who doesn't know. And you think,
Right.
well, why are you teaching people? This is the
Hmm.
problem I have with some YouTubers, is you just hear the wrong stuff. And
Yes.
I think sometimes people are missing out if they don't join a guild and get some professional
Absolutely.
instruction. So,
Yeah.
That book. Yeah. That book is. Can we still buy that book new or is it? Oh,
yes,
oh yeah.
yes, you can. I think they're in their second, well, no, I think it's a third edition now.
We got
Yeah.
to do a whole show on that book, Cindy.
You should.
Okay.
Because yeah, we got because I've got well, I have two copies of it, and Yeah, that's like if you don't have
Yeah.
that, you're yeah,
Well, it's like now people want to just buy a stitch book. They just want the numbers.
yeah,
And I'm like, you have to know where you're starting and where you're going in order to know what you should really do.
right,
It's not
Mhm.
just this, this, this. It's
yeah,
not,
Right.
needlepoint is not dot to dot. I
right,
mean, people would like it to be, and it can be if you give them all the diagrams, but I really like to
Right.
teach people why you do basket weave the way you do it,
mm-hmm,
Mhm.
so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah. Well, that yeah, there's been some recently. I've seen some Facebook posts where people were doing basket weave and didn't know how to do it,
Right,
and and what's wrong with this?
right,
They show a picture. Look at this. This, what's wrong with this? Ridges and all kinds of things. Yeah, yeah. And then
right,
people, and so then you get that mixed bag of help.
right,
Half
Mhm.
of it not good, and then one person will show up and say, "This is how you do it," and here's a source for
right.
how to do it right. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just because yeah, those well, we've all seen the ridges and the humps and the
Oh,
bumps
yeah.
and the stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, just from that simple thing. And
Well, and
Yeah.
we saw it day in and day out in the shop. So, you
yeah,
know,
Mhm.
I got a lot of hands-on experience in a lot of different things. And, I'd been doing cross stitch for a long time. My mother was a professional. My mom did it too. And she actually, while we still had the shop in Gulf Breeze, while it was still hers, she started teaching at seminars. And so
oh,
I was watching her, do that. Never for one iota thinking I would be doing that someday. But here I am. So
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
here you are today. Yeah.
here I am today. Yes.
Wow. So that I'm fascinated by the military family. I mean, that just had to get old after all those years of moving around and stuff. So your dad retired and then doing framing. That was his.
Yeah, he retired from the military, and then they moved here after some time went by. And my mom had always dreamed of having a needle workshop. In fact, there was a cross stitch store in San Diego that we used to go to whenever we would visit my grandfather, and I would go to it when I lived there. And my mom just said, "Someday I'm going to have this," and she did. So, so my dad, he needed something to do, and so she sent him to framing school,
Oh.
and
Right.
he became a custom framer, and he was excellent at it. He had an eye for color that we would have never known that he had. Like
Oh.
when I was growing up, he wore a uniform most of the time, and when he would put regular clothes on, we'd be like, "Dad, don't wear that. Those things don't go together." But when it came to framing and picking out mats and frames, he was really, really good. So,
That's so cool. A career in
yeah.
the
That is
military
cool.
and then to be able to retire
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
do something like that. Yeah.
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 That's
People loved
awesome.
him.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, so when did you start to do counted canvas and start to design?
Well, I started stitching it probably in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. And at that time, I had started quilting. And so was
Oh,
very just attracted to that geometric pattern kind of thing going on. And I always was looking for another pattern to do that was as fun as Nova was to me.
yeah,
And I stitched a lot of things, and we put them up on the wall. I started a lot of things, and I gave up on them because they were boring, or I really liked the way they looked, but I just didn't want to spend the time to do them not having fun.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
so when I opened my own store, I needed to have patterns that I could teach. And I had a lot of trouble with this one particular class not getting the instructions in time. And so I decided that I was going to do little beginner things myself, and I would just design it myself because I knew that I would have them. And so I
yeah,
did that. And then I was teaching somebody else's piece as a mystery in parts. I actually did it for a year, once a month for a year. They came and they didn't know
Wow.
what it was going to look like. And towards the end of that first one, they said, "Why don't you design one of these?" I said, "Well, I don't know if I could." They said, "We'll take your class." And so I said, "Okay." I just wanted them to come into the store and
Right.
shop and, take my class. And so if they were going to do it, even if it was terrible, I was okay. I was willing to try.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And, and then about halfway through, somebody saw it and they said, "Are you going to publish that?" And I'm like, "Why would I do that? I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
So, so I really, like I just had to be like kind of dragged along, like you are going to become a designer somehow. And I just crazy. So, like I just did those simple little things. And then I did that first big mystery. And then it went so well that I did another one the next year in my shop. And I think I did three or four. And at the same time, I said, I need to design some other things that are smaller that won't take so long. And
Yeah.
so I did a few things. I had a couple of people that were like, "We'll stitch for you," and I'm like, "Well, okay, we'll see." And so I did that, and then I decided that um, I would go to one of my distributors and ask her if she would. I told her, "I think I'm going to start designing. I've been doing some stuff. Would you be willing to distribute my designs?" And she took my unframed piece that was finished stitching and slapped it up on the wall and started taking orders that year. And I think that was like 2007, maybe about 20 years ago that I
Man,
started
you really
Wow.
designing.
did get dragged into this thing, didn't you?
I just, it was like, and then a couple of years later, I know that 2010 was the first year that I exhibited it in at the trade show in Nashville. And
Yeah.
I really, at that point, like we had the guilds in our town, and there weren't a lot of charted designers. There's a lot more now, but there weren't a
Mhm.
lot that were selling retail. It was kind of this like little exclusive club that you had to be in a guild and you had to be able to afford to go to a seminar to get a really nice charted piece.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was right. I thought, I want to design stuff that the shops can sell. And that
Hmm.
really was
Mhm.
my primary focus at the beginning, especially because I had a shop and
Mhm.
I needed good things to sell. And
Yeah.
so and I still feel pretty strongly about that, which is probably why I still have a really strong retail presence. And I wish that
Mhm.
more painted canvas stores would be willing to sell charted, but they're
I
just,
do
some of
too.
them do and some of them don't. But to me, there's something very magic about starting with a blank piece
Mhm.
of canvas and watching a design emerge, watching it come to life. Um, I rarely stitch mine in the same order that I write the directions in. So sometimes for me, seeing somebody else's post on Facebook where they have the first two rows of colorways done and nothing else, I'm like, wow, I have, like I started in the middle and I'm moving all around. And I design very organically where um, I might chart a lot of stuff, but then when I start stitching, it kind of speaks to me and things change and I make a lot of notes. And,
Yeah.
I don't like never start at the top and go in the order that I write my directions in.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was why we started our new Canvas series, is that
mhm,
we feel that people need to know more about and be exposed to counted canvas. And
mhm,
so many of the designers, their new stuff is only through classes that they offer or that they give
mhm,
through
Mhm.
seminars.
right,
And to get retail stuff is difficult, and the exposure, the availability and exposure is not there, and that's why we started it. We want to try and amp that up so that people can appreciate this other form of needlepoint,
right,
because I mean, well, we all do it, and it's so much fun to do, and there's so much creative stuff being done that
Mhm.
doesn't require a painted canvas, and
right,
but to get the stuff retail is, for a lot of it, is just hard to do. And
right,
I understand why people do it,
Right.
I'm not faulting them at all. I mean, it's certainly understandable, and the pandemic drove a lot of that. Um, but still, people need to know about this. And well, we've in just the couple weeks since we did our first show, heard from several people who it either was a revelation or they've wanted to, didn't know where to start. And
Right.
I hope in doing it we can help some people. And
Right.
and yeah, you're one of the examples where people can go to your website, and I'm
Uh-huh.
sure several stores, and buy a chart or a kit retail, and have at it. They don't have to take a class. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Now I have a lot of people take classes through Shining Needle with me because,
Mm-hmm.
for many reasons. They work in the home.
yeah,
They're not gonna use one half of their vacation time to go to a seminar, if they have a family.
Right.
Some people just frankly can't afford to spend $400 on a painted canvas.
right,
Um, or they don't want to. I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people that could afford to, but they just don't want to. So there's lots of reasons. I think there's room for everything. Um, I come from a blue collar background where I just like the amount of money that goes out on a painted canvas and then all the threads and then all the finishing.
right,
Like that was just not something that I was ever able to do.
yeah,
And,
Right.
and so there's, there's a reason that there's like lower end stores for all kinds of things. And I think in needlepoint, um, a painted canvas and DMC floss or pearl cotton, so you don't have to strand it. It's acceptable and it's
hmm,
doable.
yeah,
I definitely think that using different threads to create texture is important. I have people sometimes that want me to give them a floss conversion for something, and I'm like, it's never going to look the way that I designed it to look. But
yeah,
you, as an individual, can do whatever you want with whatever threads you want, and that's perfectly fine. You know, if I have some designs that are all embroidery floss.
hmm,
You know,
yeah,
unfortunately now we can't get anchor in this country anymore, so that's a problem. But I haven't done one in a while, but I've thought about it, especially
yeah,
with the threads being the way they are.
yeah. Yeah.
So.
Chasing threads is,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine what shops need. Well, you guys, same thing, multiple lines of
Yeah,
thread and just keeping up
yeah,
with all of them, and they
yeah.
discontinue a color, and it's in three kits from, yeah, I'm sure
Yep.
it's just
Yeah, it happens all the
tiring.
time.
Yeah,
That's just normal. The threads are discontinued or whatever. But um, that we can deal with. But this not being able to get them for
right.
2 and 3 months or 6 months is just.
Do you try to incorporate new threads? So this is because I Cyber Pointers had Tony Gertis do her wacky threads or whatever presentation. I just watched it this week.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was showing us some of the new threads that are
Hmm.
out there from like Tilly Thomas, and I've only
Uh-huh.
just seen those recently. And
Yes.
so, do you risk using those and then having them disappear later on, or are you not
Um,
concerned about that?
I feel like almost every thread I use is a risk. I mean,
Mm,
that's just part of it, especially some of the handover dies that are just like a single person. You
Oh
think,
yeah.
okay, somebody said something to me one day about, what if so and so dies? And I thought, like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then, like Lois Karen did die
right,
couple of years ago.
right.
And
Right.
I think she must have had a good succession plan because that company did not miss a beat. In
Yeah.
fact, their service has gotten better. So,
Oh,
now
because
I
yeah,
don't know how long it's
we
going to
talked
stay
to
that way.
the lady who took it over. I forget her name now, but yeah, it
I do
seemed like
too.
they had it buttoned down pretty good. Yeah,
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it seems to be okay so far, which, I mean, I have a lot of designs,
yeah, you
that
do.
use watercolors. Yeah, I mean, one of the early designs that I did that also was almost as much fun as Nova was Amy Bear had some charted designs that would use 10 or 12 watercolors. only watercolors. And I did a couple of them, and I thought one of my guilds said, we want to do that as a class, but could you do some other colorways? And I thought, oh my gosh. So then I had to analyze kind of the color scheme, the palette, and come up with some other colorways for them. And in doing that, I created this monster inside of me that was like, I want to do more, or I want to do designs that are only watercolors. And so I have a good number of them, especially in my early work. And some of my early designs are named after certain watercolor threads.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, they're just, I love them.
Yeah.
There's no other texture of pearl cotton type thread that is
No.
like watercolors.
No.
It's a thread
Right.
on its own. So,
Oh yeah. When
so
that
many people using them.
when that transition happened, I think we all had a panic moment because if
Hmm.
that thread line goes away, the the impact across
Yeah.
the needlepoint is huge. Yeah.
I told my husband we might have to buy that company and move to Connecticut or something. I just was like, I can't, like I'll have to retire.
Right.
I just don't know what I would do. And
Yeah.
so I remember calling there just like maybe a week after and just saying, I have, this is so horrible. First, I'm so, so sorry. And we talked a little bit about that. And then I said, I have these classes at seminars coming up. Am I going to be able to get these threads? And they said yes. So
Yeah.
I
Wow.
did. But
Well, that's good to hear that things have actually gotten a little bit better or gotten better service wise. So that means that they made that transition well, and
they did.
that's
Hmm.
fantastic. Yeah. Because, oh man, just think of the number of, particularly just counted canvas designs that are based off of those threads.
Hmm.
And if they aren't available, holy smokes,
Yeah.
hundreds
Like
of
not
them.
all of mine, because I do like to spread my threads around,
Yeah.
but it is one of my favorites for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Which if people know my work, they know that
Right. Right.
they're
Yeah.
not surprised. They're
Yeah.
not surprised to hear that I love
Yeah.
watercolors.
Right.
But
So
you and how many other designers? I mean, it's just a staple. I mean, it's
I'm always surprised when a designer says, I don't really use that thread very much. I'm like, okay,
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
what are you
Yep.
using?
It's so interesting that your one of your earliest designs was a mystery, and we
Mhm.
gotta talk about your next one coming up, this Liberty. That
Yes.
you start out doing with a catalog of designs you have that you start out doing a mystery because you have
Mhm.
what I don't know. There's a good handful of them that you've done.
I've
Um,
been doing a mystery every year since 2008, maybe eight.
yeah.
And I think I've skipped 2 or 3 years when something was going on.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah. And so now it's like, okay, what am I going to do this time? And
Hmm.
people love them. So they have their own category on my website, former
Right.
mystery designs. Because
Right.
and I
Yeah.
somebody wrote to me, I think yesterday, to sign up for this one, and they said I've done all 14 of them. So I didn't go back and check her to see if that was how many there are, but it could be.
yeah.
So
Wow.
Wow.
There's a cat. We got to talk to her. I want to see those.
yeah,
So talk
she's
about
great.
this Liberty one. So this one you just
So
announced not too long ago through Shining
yeah,
Needle.
we just announced it Monday, and this one is a little bit different than most of the time. The canvas is cut 16 by 20. This one is square, 16 by 16. I did let Kate publish the outline, which looks very much like a log cabin block. It's a little bit different. I changed some things up. Um, and I did 3 other colorways. So although my original version is very patriotic, I wanted to do something with red, white, and blue threads for America 250 because I can't say that other word. But I did create a Christmas, a Halloween, and then I always will put in like some kind of neutral um, browns,
Hmm.
greens, tan,
Yeah.
for the people that want things to go in their house.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
I was
Yeah.
practicing that word was semi quincentennial. Man,
That's good.
I don't know who
That's
puts
a
those
like
things together, but
I don't know, but when I was a kid, bicentennial was really easy to say.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Yeah.
but this one, no. So,
yeah.
so Liberty is easy to say.
Yeah, we'll go with Liberty. So let's
Yes.
back up though. Let's tell everybody. So this one,
So
Shining
the way
Needle
this,
Society, take people through the process.
so when I had it in my store, it was great. People came once a month for 6 months to a year. It just depended. When I closed my store in 2011, I actually was in the middle of creating one, and I just did it myself. And at that point, I went to Kate. I knew about Shiny Needle Society. I thought that that would be a good way to get my name out there to say I'm teaching and I don't have a store anymore. And I said, would you be willing to let me teach a class? And she said yes. And so I taught a class. I designed something for that and taught it. Did different colorways. It's in my on my website now. And then I was like, well, I should really do another mystery. And how am I going to do it now without a storefront? And so I went to Kate and told her about it. I said, I could do it in 4 to 6 parts. This is what I did in my store. And she had not done that before with anybody. And
Oh,
she said,
Oh.
well, we can try it. We'll see how it goes. So she's always been very receptive to um, me teaching things for her through Shining Needle. And I think that first one, I had like 179 people. I mean, it was just crazy. My first online one was called Starstruck. I really love stars. When I started quilting, I only made quilts that with stars in them, and a lot of my early designs have a lot of stars in them. And so I had done my second mystery, which I really think is my first because it's the first one where I actually felt like I knew what I was doing, was Galaxy. And so it was a lot of stars. And then I
I
think I
remember
did,
Galaxy. Yes, matter of fact, I have the
yeah,
chart. Yeah, I have the
yeah,
chart. Yep.
yeah. So back then I would do like 8 colorways. Now I like limit myself to 3 or 4. Um,
Mhm.
so we did that then, and then it was so well received that people asked me, "Are you going to do another?" And I was like, yeah, I can do another. And so it's just kind of one of the things I do every year. And there's there's a couple times like I don't like to do what I call design on demand, where I'm going to design something just because I have to. I want to
Mhm.
design something because it's really going to come from a place in me that I want to get something out. And so this one, I hadn't really even started it. I had thought about it a lot last fall when I would normally be stitching it, and I just never got it done. I was teaching a lot, I was traveling, and when I do that, I don't really have much time to be creative. And
Yeah.
so I didn't start stitching this until kind of the end of December, and um, I shouldn't say this, but it's not all the way stitched yet. I still have a little ways to go, but I know all the threads. I know I'm very solid on everything that's going to be coming up, and I am leaving on a teaching trip at the end of February, and it'll be done by then. So,
Okay. So when you're doing these mysteries,
mhm.
and stitching along, is it evolving, or do you have it all planned out and just stitch it?
um, no, I have it's evolving. Like
Okay.
I am stitching an area, and then I have a bunch of stuff charted, and then like what am I going to do next? And I'm balancing the colors and using all the elements of design that I know to make sure that the end product is good. So
Hmm.
a lot of times I'll start with something in my head, um, and it changes, or I'll chart something and I start
Mhm.
stitching it and say, well, I think I'm going to do it this way instead. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I like to start with some written stuff so that I have stuff to write on, to have
Hmm.
notes, because writing instructions, I used to
Yeah.
be, every designer will tell you that it's like
Yep.
not their
Yeah.
most favorite thing to
Yep.
do. And, early on, before I was ever a designer, I would start my classes with, let me tell you what the corrections are. And
Oh.
I was probably a little snobby about it, and I apologize to all those people that I never said anything to their face. But I really just was like, why can't they get this right? And I've been humbled greatly. So, It's
Yeah.
not easy. So,
So Liberty is the newest one, and the deadline. I can make sure I get this right. So the deadline is February
yes.
16 to sign up
So,
on
right,
Shining Needle Society, and there'll be links in
right.
the show notes. And
Yes,
the class starts April 15, and so
yes.
that's obviously so you can get
And
materials
so,
together and ship
yes,
and all
yeah.
the things. Yeah.
I actually already ordered one run of threads for the mystery, and then I'll order another when registration closes, and then we have to build all those kits and ship them individually. So it's quite a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I offer a line drawn option. So I think the last year or 2 years ago in the mystery, I think I drew 67 canvases.
Oh
So
boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
so I have to start doing that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this class, how does it work? Is it online? I mean, is there a live session, or do you create videos that people just get? How does that
No,
work?
it's all written. It's
Okay.
all it's all written, and they get the lessons via email, and I give them a couple of things. I do a document with a lot of photographs about how I select the different colorways. So there are
Okay.
some people who sign up. You could sign up and get just the instructions and use your stash or do your own colorway in a shop. And I've a good number of people that do that. And so I have kind of a step by step how you can pick your own.
So
So then they get with their kit they get the a couple of pages of just introduction, how it's going to work, the listing of the different colorways. Some people just want to go buy their own thread. That's fine. And the master outline. So
oh,
people can elect to have their canvas drawn or not drawn. Some people will work from a blank canvas, and that's okay. If you, my opinion about drawing on canvas is that if you draw the areas, you will. If you make mistakes, I know a lot of you don't because you're so good. But if you make a mistake, you find it a lot faster if you have the lines drawn on.
mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
it's kind of up to you. To me, for me, I draw lines on the canvas. It's part of my design process. Like I do like design little chunks of things. I used to say I have the attention span of a gnat. So I never wanted like people in the beginning, they were like, why don't you ever put borders on anything? I said, because they're boring to stitch. Like I was like at heart a stitcher first. So I wanted my designs first to be really fun to stitch. If they look great too, it's a high. I mean, I care about that more now than I used to. But in the beginning, I just wanted it to be fun and look okay. That was
Mm,
enough for me.
Mhm.
And a lot of people who take my classes finish their 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 work. They finish the piece, which is very gratifying to me. I
yeah.
sometimes will
Mhm.
go to a regional seminar the next year, and there might be four pieces in the exhibit that people have finished and framed. And
Oh,
so
Yeah.
they don't just take them home and throw them in the closet with the other ones.
that's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is really nice for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You're the different colorways, and it's so cool because in this class people can buy the threads for different colorways. So
mhm,
is extra cost obviously, but it's
right.
such a neat thing. But how do you control yourself when it comes to how many colorways you put together, or is that hard to do?
It's not hard anymore. It
Yeah.
depends. Like if I have a small design where you can pick a colorway really quick, then it's easy. But for a larger design where there's a lot of different things going on, for example, when I went to the needlepoint store to do the colorways for the mystery, I had my patriotic colorway, obviously, pretty much in place, and I knew the main watercolors that I wanted for the other three. I was at the needlepoint store for 4.5 hours doing those three colorways.
Uh-huh.
And
Mhm.
so I think when I had my own shop, like the more I did, it just seemed better. Plus, I was in my shop and I was sourcing for 12 people. Like if I had a class and it was 15 people, I was thrilled when I had my
Mhm.
store.
Yeah.
So, but now you know, I found that when I went from 6 to 5, it didn't really affect my numbers. When I went from 5 to 4, it didn't really affect my numbers. And I've done as little as 3 for the mystery, but 4
Mhm.
is kind of what I've landed on.
That's the
So,
sweet spot, huh?
okay, yeah, sometimes I will do the 4 seasons, just as
Mm.
Oh
a
yeah,
general guide, because what like the reason that we did colorways in our shop was, you could show the people the threads, and they might not like these threads, but they would like these. And so if they had a whole bunch, they weren't asking, do I want to take this class or not? They were asking, which one do I want?
Hmm.
So it was like kind of
Mhm.
a marketing tool originally,
Yeah.
Sure,
and
sure.
and it still can be. So
Mhm.
sometimes, if I have a small design through Shining Needle, somebody will order the original colorway and then they'll order like 2 or 3 extra kits.
Hmm.
So
Makes great
not so much
gifts.
on the mystery. Yeah, make great
Yes.
gifts, whatever. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then one last thing on the Liberty thing. So when people so they get the written 5 or 6 months
the
worth, and then talk about the support when they have questions.
so when they have questions, they just shoot me an email,
Okay.
and then I answer it. If it's something, I'll answer it privately, and then if it's something that I think is pertinent to the whole group, then I'll post something on the group pages.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes I'll add an extra file, um, and I give them instructions, and then I give them a separate document that's tips and tricks for beginners, and especially beginners, and seasoned stitchers as well.
Hmm.
And in that document, I a lot of times will talk some about my design process, or why I used a certain stitch here or there, or why I used a certain thread, or kind of what I was thinking. So I try to give them a little bit more, a lot more than they would get if they just bought a chart, but also kind of a little bit of my personal stuff. And then there are some classes where if I have beads or some other thing that I've done where I really feel like a demo is needed, then I'll do a Zoom session.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
with this one, it's straight stitching. There's no beads or
Yeah.
anything really
So
funky on
you'll
this one.
you post one section every month for 5 months.
Yes, every 4 weeks on a Wednesday. And I think
Okay.
on this particular one in June, I'm going to go 5 weeks because it's my wedding anniversary and I'll be out of town teaching. So, and
Happy
then I'm,
anniversary.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just
Yeah.
got married like 3 years ago. That's why I took a year off. I got married. My dad had cancer and died, and my mom has Alzheimer's,
Oh,
and my
Ugh.
brother and I
oh,
became responsible for her overnight. And so I kind
Oh.
of I didn't have time to grieve the year that he died because
mhm.
everything was already set. So last year
Wow.
I kind of went back to my own hobby of quilting and started sewing again after 5 years, and I gave myself a break from the mystery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
but things are good
yeah,
Ooh,
now.
that's a tough ride. Ooh, sorry to hear that. All
Yes, it
that.
yeah.
has
That's
been.
tough.
Hmm.
Yeah. I wondered about that, uh, the quilting thing. Because,
Hmm.
you've got the logs. I mean, so much of your stuff is quilting influenced. Do,
It is.
and obviously it's intentional. So you still quilt and let the two mix then.
I do, like quilting is something that also I like never intended to do. I wanted my mother to make me a quilt, and she told me it was really easy. And I was like, if it's so easy, why don't you just do it? But she didn't. And so again, I read a book and I started sewing. I made that quilt that I wanted, and putting my hands on all that fabric, I wanted to do it again and again and again. And I have. And when COVID hit, it's when my mom's memory started kind of going, and it was something I did with my mom. And so I stopped, and then I got my business got really super busy, and then I started dating my now husband, and I every time I looked at my sewing room, I felt sad, and
Oh,
so I last year decided that I would see if I could do it again, and I reconnected with some friends that I hadn't
uh-huh.
seen for a long time, and
Uh,
it's really added a lot to my life, and I think a lot to my creativity too.
Yeah.
So
So
um,
that, and that was the other thing. Is that the release for you, quilting, from
it's my
designing, or?
personal hobby where I get to do some designing and playing with color and texture and fabric, and I don't have to keep track of it. I don't have
Uh,
to help anybody. Somebody told me once, "You could design quilts," and I said, "Yes, I could." And I do. And I'm not helping you do it. So it is the thing, like I learned a cross stitch to provide my mom with a product to sell. So
uh-huh.
needlework has always been somewhat of a financial, like this is how I earn something, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Back when I
right.
could babysit and cross stitch at the same time when I was in high school, that was a big bonus. And
Yeah.
when I
Mhm.
found that I could have a needlework shop and pay all my bills, because I was single, um, that was a big bonus. And when I started designing and teaching, then it was even better. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful that I get to have the life that I have. I don't really feel like I work, although I work really hard
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes.
I run a business completely by myself, and I do have somebody that helps and works with me. But um,
Yeah.
this is what I've been able to do so that I didn't have to go find another corporate job.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
quilting
great.
thing.
It's my hobby.
It
It's my
used to,
love.
well, it used to be
So,
there was a guy that I knew quite well whose job was all day long. He kept marine fish uh, and shipped marine fish all day long. And I asked him one time, I said, "Do you have an aquarium at home?" He said, "Not a chance.
no,
Never."
Yeah.
Never. He said, by the
right.
time of the end of the day, I said, I've had enough. No, he said, I don't
Yeah,
want water near
yeah,
me at all. Yeah. So
yeah.
quilting is
I
your,
it's my thing, but I have to say I really do still love to needlepoint, and I
yeah,
but I do only do my own stuff.
right.
Rarely do I do somebody else's stuff, just mostly
Mhm.
because I don't have time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some of the design, like my log series, started with me doing a log cabin block, which I thought was super simple. It wasn't to be released; it was to be a pillow to go in my sewing room, in my hobby area. And I took it to a guild meeting one night because I was just working on it. And they were
Oops.
like, "When are you going to release that?" And I'm like, "I'm not releasing this. It's just going to be a pillow for my sewing room." And they're like, "Oh, no, you should release that." And so I was like, "But it's so nothing. It's all like, it's just so simple." And they said, "Oh, no, we want it." And so then I was
Yeah.
like, "What am I going to call it?" And so I called it Summer Logs because it was the summer palette for a class
Mhm.
I had taught right when
So
I
that
closed
was
my
the first
store.
one then.
And that's how I named it. I call it Summer after and so when I took it to market, people said, shop owners said, "When are the other seasons coming out?"
Of course.
And I said, "Oh, that's a
Oops.
really good idea. That's a really good idea." So that's how that series started. And
Oh,
then
man.
I've done other things. And then where did I put it? I was going to show you. I don't know what I did with it. I did a Christmas tree. Last year I did a heart, or maybe 2 years ago I did a heart.
Right.
Yes.
I did a Christmas tree over Christmas, and it's going to be released later this year.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
cool.
my quilting friends love it. So they think they're like, "That is so cool." I'm like, "Yes, it is." So it's fun.
I love the theme. Drag Kathy into all this. When are you going to release it? I wasn't.
No, I really wasn't. And then it became like one of my most popular series where I get to use all watercolors.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of them that have maybe a metallic in it. I think I put metallic in the winter one. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Because I
love
was.
them. I think they're great.
Yeah. I was
yeah.
gonna. Yeah. So that literally is. I wondered if the logs were one of your most popular ones because I mean that
Mhm.
they just get stitched all over the
Yeah,
place. Yeah.
they're. I mean, they're popular. The holiday delights are really popular. I've thought about doing a second series of them. I just kind of there's so much stuff that goes on up in my head
Mm.
that sometimes it takes a while for it to come out. I did the seasonal delights last year. I kind of they were going in my head, and one day I was like, "I'm just not going to mail anything today. I'm not going to look at my computer, and I'm going to draw out one of them and get it started." So I would have a small project to take with me places, and the next thing I knew, I spent the whole day and I just planned them all out. They just came out. So, I like how that works.
Yeah. You designers with your heads full of ideas. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just they're percolating. There's like a little thing up there that's
Yeah.
just up and down, up and down, up and down. And
Do you write them down?
I have a notebook where I write stuff down.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I like to go teach in person though, because I really get a lot of ideas and inspiration when
Mm.
I'm surrounded by other people that are stitching, and I
Uh-huh.
really like to. People are like, you don't have to travel anymore. I'm like, no, I don't, but I want to because I want to be in touch with other people who stitch. We
Hmm.
don't have
Where
a stitching store.
where do
Um,
you do a lot where do you do a lot of your classes? Is it for guilds or for shops or both?
no, mostly for I teach at seminars, EGA or A&G. I teach
Okay.
at pretty much every year, um,
Hmm.
and then I'll teach for some guilds. And um, this year, I'm teaching on 2 cruises. I'm teaching on a
Oh,
cruise
wow.
for Great Lakes region of EGA that's going to be leaving at the end of February. And then I'm teaching, Jean Farish invited me to be a needlepoint teacher on one of her cruises that is going from Amsterdam to Norway in
Oh.
Wow.
I think it's at the end of July. It's like right after I come home from A&G and I have to turn around and go do that. And then next year in
She has to
2027,
get that, Cindy. She has to
I
go
have to.
to Norway. She has to. She's
I have to.
forced. She's forced, arm
Yeah, I caught
twisted to
that.
go to
Yeah.
Norway. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like the best deal ever. I'm going to take my husband, so I'm not going to make any money, but we're going to, travel out of the country together. So that's great.
Yeah.
Right. It'll be great.
Yeah, yeah. And then next year, Tony Gerdes and I are doing a Caribbean cruise in April. She's a good friend of mine,
Oh.
and we're going to be on Celebrity, which she and I taught on a cruise with Jean Farish from Vancouver to Hawaii a couple of years ago. I think it was 2022,
Hmm.
23. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I wasn't married yet, so it was 22. Um, and we've been wanting to do another one, and so we're going to do that. There's going to be time for people to just hang out with us, stitch with us. We're just in the beginning of planning it, but we have the dates, and I think you're going to put a link in
Yeah.
the whatever you do, um, so that you can join the Facebook group, get information. You can go ahead and sign up for the cruise now, book it with the travel agents that are doing it for us, and we're really excited about that. It's going to be
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah.
So I'll
How
be
do those?
designing a new piece for that.
Oh, of course you are. Yes.
Yeah, in my free
Why
time.
not? Why
So
not?
that's
How do those
that's fun.
work? Those cruises work? Do you have a room on the ship where everybody can leave their stuff set up and come and go, or how does that work? Kind of, not,
No,
sort of, right? Okay.
no. People have to take their stuff with them. I think when we had a great classroom on Celebrity, and I think we will on this particular. We're going on a different ship this time than we did before, but the whole room was one entire wall of windows, so the lighting was
Oh.
incredible. And
Yeah.
yeah, so. But there's like on a cruise ship, you'd be surprised how many places there are that you can find to set up a little area and have people stitching at
Oh.
whatever time they want,
Mm-hmm.
So get a cocktail and hang out and take a
Yeah.
few stitches. It's really
Yeah.
fun. So that's where I finished my Cupid's logs was on the cruise.
Was it?
No.
I was like
Uh,
working on all the backgrounds, and I was like, oh, let me just make this up. So it was really
yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
Oh. Okay. We're going to run out of time here. So, tell about color waves. How did that happen? Because I just think that is
Color
of the
waves.
grid designs. Stitch in a
Uh-huh.
box and color, and then you went and did that, and put those waves in. It was like, holy smokes, next level. Yeah.
At the I know what happened because I had seen a quilt that was kind of like that rainbow effect, and I
Oh. Mhm.
saw I went to a quilt festival in Houston with some friends, and I found in my shopping this ruler that was bendable. so you could create waves with this ruler. And so and I had been exploring curves in different designs. So
Hmm.
I I bought that ruler. I came home. I was so excited. I said, "Mom, look at this." And she's like, "I have one of those."
Oh, jeez.
And so, yeah, it's just so funny. So but I took my ruler and, I drew out my squares, and then I put that ruler down and drew my lines, and
Oh,
then I worked within that framework. And it was like I was so sorry when I was done with that piece. It's really probably the only time I've ever been really sorry or regretted finishing a piece and not having it to work on anymore.
oh,
And I I look at it sometimes now and I think I could do that again, and I think I could do it better, which is why people work in series.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Right.
and I
Right.
have done a lot. I've done a lot of other pieces where I use like all the colors of the rainbow. So
Yeah.
hmm
it's kind of my thing.
yeah. It's
That
such a
bendable ruler, that's a great idea, though.
Yeah. But then you still have to like know how to get it,
Oh,
even
yeah.
bending it, like I've used it other times too. It's a fun thing to do.
Hmm.
Have you ever acted on that? Go back to an old design and say I can do it better, and actually done it better?
I don't know if I've done it better, but yes, I
You
do.
have. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like when I did Starstruck, it was really like, can I do stars better than I did Galaxy
Oh,
as a
okay.
mystery?
Okay.
There's things like that and it was better because I had more experience.
hmm
And
Hmm.
I love bright colors. I use them a lot. I can do other colors too. I can really use any colors. I have kind of a natural understanding and gift of working with color. But everybody tends to like one section of the color wheel better than another, which is
Hmm.
why I do colorways based on seasons, because everybody is going to like one of them.
hmm
Sometimes
Right.
people like more than one, but and then in my classes in my shop, sometimes I would talk to people about their personalities based on the colors that they liked,
Oh,
and that's kind of a fun thing to do too. So,
so that
um,
all comes naturally to you. You haven't had formal training.
well, the formal training I've had has been with some quilting teachers because I have
Oh,
taken some quilting classes. Again, I'm like that geeky person that reads the quilt book at the beginning where it talks about all that kind of stuff. I've like a whole shelf of books on color and theory because I like to study them. But when I first started, like I just knew certain things work together. And when I started studying, then I understood, oh, they work together because of this.
yeah.
Hmm.
And then I could get to a solution sometimes faster because of understanding that.
hmm
Hmm.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
my I have 50 designs, well, 52 if you count the rainbows, designs in my little Color Delight series. And those were really, especially the early ones, I thought I would do 12. There's 50. But they're, they're,
Way to contain yourself. Well
yeah,
played.
it just like I just kept going. And on the back of those patterns, in the words, I usually have, especially my early ones, like some early memory of why I like that color, or what about that color attracted me. And
hmm
Hmm.
um, I started those when I still had my store, and I started a kind of a color of the month club with giving them a
Oh.
palette of threads that would work together, and I would create a design for it. And so, um, I did that. I started with Bermuda Reef watercolors. It was like teal is one of my favorite colors, and so I did
Hmm.
that. But you know, it's just there's so many things that sometimes they just
Hmm.
happen, and you just
Yeah.
go with it.
Huh.
So, but those
So
are really
the
those. But the reason I talked about color delights is those are, if you haven't done county canvas, those are what I recommend people start with because it's small. They only
Right.
finish at 4x4. You can put them in a box. You can make an ornament. You could start it, just do what's in the middle. If you hate it, just make that an ornament. Um, you don't have to always finish the huge design. You can. I did this once. I took a class from another teacher, and I loved it, but I'm like, I'm never going to finish it, and so I just had my mom, who did the finishing, finish it into an ornament for me,
Oh,
and
Mhm.
it's still on my tree today. So there's lots of things that you can do to um, not force yourself to do stuff that you don't want to do.
yeah.
So do you release all of your teaching patterns as for sale later? I
Not all
wondered
of them,
because
no.
I did beaded
Beat a
Bermuda
Bermuda
wreath.
Reef, you and like 14 million other people. But,
Yeah,
and
I
like
haven't
the
done the
reason
beading yet, but I know you have other ones that are in the same kind
I
of.
do, I have a four, and yesterday, or not yesterday, earlier this week, I had a videographer come and film me demoing the beads because those I taught through Shining Needle, and um, I've tried to do the whole Zoom thing, setting up my camera. I'm not a tech person. I don't want to be a tech person. So
Right.
I hired
Yeah.
one, and and so um, I went to a needlepoint store a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday, and I've never seen so many 20 somethings in a needlepoint store. It was kind of exciting,
Oh,
but
Oh,
that's
there's
good.
like I guess this whole wave of needlepoint young people on TikTok. So
Hmm.
maybe check that out.
Yeah,
yeah.
But
that's
they're
good.
doing
So
pajamas.
there are you still teaching those designs?
Um, they're on Shiny. I've taught them through Shiny Needle. So the great thing about Shiny Needle is that those classes stay posted. And so if somebody comes along later and writes to me and says, "Can I take Beta Bermuda Reef?" I'm like, "Yes, you can. You can sign up for the class and just ignore the dates. I'll send them the registration." And a lot
Hmm.
of people do that. Um, so those are I still teach those, and then. Um, did you do Bermuda Reef through Cyber Porters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they have the video. If you don't have the video of the beating, I actually could send you a link to that. Um,
Um, a Actually, I saw a picture that somebody did where they made it look like a rocky stream bed kind of a thing.
oh,
It
really?
wasn't just the coral.
Uh huh.
They put all
Yeah.
kinds of other. So I
Yeah.
have I'm gonna do that and I have everything
To
ready.
do
It's
that.
just I
Yeah.
got sidetracked.
Yeah. Well, there was a
But
lady too
yeah.
that she like some shells falling off the mat.
Hmm.
But it's hard to sort. Like even now, the beads that I used, the big rondelles, I can't get them anymore. So I
Oh,
had to. So now I'm having to substitute, and I mean that
Yeah.
piece has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
It's
pieces like
beautiful.
with beads, or like I have some pieces that have batik fabric on them. I'm not releasing those. They just can just be perpetual
Okay.
classes.
yeah.
So
Okay. Well, I didn't know about, that you were willing to, do like a one-on-one through the Shining Needle. So that's good to know.
yeah, yeah, because they're written lessons and they're all posted. So
Hmm.
but then you always have access to me. I mean, if you buy a
Right.
chart from me, you have access. You can email me, and I answer everybody's emails. Sometimes, it might take me a couple days if I'm teaching or something, but um, I try to help people where I can or point them in the right direction, to get what the help that they need. So there's
That's
a lot of
great.
people like me who don't have shops. My closest shop used to
Hmm.
be 4 hours, but a few years ago one opened only an hour from here, and that feels like it's great because she carries a lot of the threads that I use. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know
my
that.
closest shop is 3 hours.
Yeah. And I've got two within 15 minutes. Yeah.
yeah,
So
well, you're spoiled.
Lucky.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I know. Yeah. That TikTok thing and young people, and then one of the things that I think through our Canvas thing that we'll be emphasizing is these designs, and yours are classic examples, look complex and hard to do, but they're not.
They're not. And part of it is the way I write instructions. I break things down.
Yeah,
So you're only looking at, this much at a time.
yeah,
And
Mhm.
when you do that, and then, like I told you, I have a really short attention span, although I can sit for hours and stitch, but it's not repetitive. I'm doing A1 and it's this.
Mhm.
And then when I finish it, I finished something, and you get that little jolt of dopamine. And like Serenity is one of my most popular teaching pieces, and it has 85 different areas, which sounds really intimidating, but you can sit
Yeah.
down in a night and do 10 of them
right.
because they're small and they're fun. And if they're not fun, they're done soon,
Yeah, yeah,
So,
Right.
but I don't have pieces that have a million stitches of metallic because I don't like stitching with metallic very much.
hmm
Um, I, you know, One of the reasons I like to go teach, like I didn't like neon rays in the beginning, but I like it now.
mm.
So, um, I'll try any thread once, and sometimes you'll never see it in a design again, or sometimes, like all of a sudden, you'll be seeing it a lot. So, last year I came out with a piece and I used painter's threads for the first time.
uh,
And,
Love them.
I put three of them in a piece and it was really well received. And I think I'll probably use them again at some point. But those are not threads that my shop carries. So
uh,
probably no
Yeah.
colorways.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, we got to wrap up. Wow,
Right.
that was fun. Thanks so much for doing it.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you.
Liberty is the
History.
mystery thing on Shining Needle Society. I'll put a link for that. And then Sailing Stitches is the trip with Tony Gertis. And
Yes.
so we'll have a link for that, and people can sign up for that. But I will emphasize that the Liberty mystery, the deadline is the 16th of February.
Right.
So very short window. So act quickly on that if you want to get in on it. The stitching starts April 15, but the 16th of February. So just a few days here. You got to act quickly for that. And then we'll all the usual links. Kathy, thanks so much. It was great fun.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yep. All right, and thanks to everyone for listening.